Hi everyone, it's Adrian Leah. This is going to be a reading. It'll probably be a shorter one. I don't make my videos short. Um, but I just felt like there were things that I feel that I would like to put into this video. I'll start pulling the cards. So I it was another long day at the DMV. Technically, it wasn't super long, but I have to retake the written test, and I haven't taken the written test since I got my license a long time ago because it's a protocol when something like this happens where um, they needed to get stuff from the last state that I was in, and I'm like, okay. So I'm hoping I could get that complete um, well as soon as possible. And I am really going to try to motivate myself because I know me, and if it's not a subject that I'm particularly that interested in, um, it's uh, it is a little bit of a fight to get myself to study, and it will have to be something where I won't have other stuff that I would rather do around me, and I can't just be like in a super cozy area, but I'm not gonna be like in an uncomfortable area because sometimes I'll read a couple of sentences and then I'll just fall asleep because there isn't the interest there. But I have to do this now, so. And I was a little bit in my mood, and I was about to, like, this was when I got back to the house, and I was about to fall asleep because I was like, I might as well just sleep for a while, and then I had to get up and do other assignments and read some things for the course. And luckily, my friend called like as soon as I was about to fall asleep, and I don't know if it was like a sign being like, don't fall asleep, to just sulk and be in your mood. That I'm trying to change the dynamic of how I operate when, you know, just growing up, and well, you're always growing, so even in adulthood, just because you finish different levels of schooling, you'll still end up doing other types of things that are relatively, well, they are in a way like school all over again. So, um, let's do my own reading for that one. I feel like this was kind of a motivation to rely on myself more because the end result was like the Queen of Coins, the Queen of Pentacles, And even just by the expression, it's just kind of doing what you need to do. And in the past, you had like the Six of Cups, which is one that kind of reminds me of like having, I don't want to say training wheels, but it almost looks like if a parent and her daughter type of thing where you might get that type of assistance, but now um, there is the level here where it seems like there's a strong, well, there is a capability to do these things because it's like in a queen's position. It's not like in a page or knight's position. I'm not saying that those are bad cards, but tends to be um, some type of completion in those regards. And then there's the king. So then I have the hanged man, which is like a force of itself when you're forced to. The words that I was getting was like lay down your burden, so that might be a good thing too. Um, but when you're forced to just be in that one place and it does have like an uncomfortable there's like an uncomfortable sensation because it's just when you're upside down, it's not something that would normally be a position that you would want to be in. And typically, when you are in the hanged man position and you are upside down, um, you might be able to see the silver lining with it because it's it gives value to seeing things from another perspective, whether it's yourself or other people looking at your position that you're in. Then with the Nine of Swords and Ten of Swords, the obstacle and how to overcome the obstacle. Um, Mainly coming to terms with it, and then the Queen of Pentacles just seems like a promising card and seeing it in yourself. So these are my cards, and then the reading I had like the Sun card and the Moon card. The Sun or the Moon was behind the Sun card, so I feel like maybe it was continuing continuing to shuffle the cards, but they're not a bad thing. They're next to each other in the major arcana, and they do have a reflection with one another. Um, the Sun card, you really can't beat it, and it does remind me of like the gift that keeps on giving. Like even if the world seems upside down, one thought that has been on my mind is like there I feel like there's more to come in terms of like the good things. And well, one of I'm not. Oh, I said I was a much of a test taker, especially with. Well, I didn't say that, but I I don't like uh, studying things, and I especially don't like studying things that I am not like really wanting to learn about that much. But I'm a little indifferent about the driving rules. But the thing about it is, um, the state is different from, like, the laws could be different in the state from another state. So, um, and I was also told that if you refer back to, like, other videos on, like, overall questions that might be difficult on the test on YouTube or something, that's like an amalgamation of questions from maybe an area that the person or company is from, or like um taking questions from tests in general, and it doesn't isolate maybe a state, but you'd have to see. So I can't really say that for sure. But I also feel like I will still get some support along the way because I have the Three of Cups, and well, I have the Eight of Swords, and that's like one, like, what am I not, what, knowing or um hearing in a way. You have the Three of Cups. And it was interesting because someone asked me how do I, what would be my advice to doing, to like multitask in life, like manage maybe schoolwork and um, everything else that seems to be tacked on after what you feel like is graduating, but then you have to do more things. So I feel like I haven't said anything to her yet, but it did remind me of like when we first start things, and at some capacity we all start running at first, but then we start to ground ourselves and get acclimated. There's a strength that comes from um, the endurance that we have when we keep going, and maybe we get past the slump or those certain areas of the ocean that I still don't know about, where it's like rough waters, and then it can be a little bit of smooth sailing for a good part of the way. And it's like I feel like I lived a pretty adventurous life. I was all, well, I was here, I was there, I was, well, I'm here, I was there, I was another in another place. So, um, I've done a lot of stuff, and I feel that it's not a bad thing if you need help, and if somebody or something is trying to give you help, then it's not a bad thing to accept it either. I think that's another thing, but I had to think about it. So this is kind of a rambly video, but maybe there will be some guidance for help, because I have the Ace of Swords with the Three of Cups, and then there's the King of Cups with the Knight of Wands. So it feels like, um, again, associated with strength and maybe Leo, with the Sun card, even though it's not the Strength card. And this is the Cups, and um, so Cups can be associated with Scorpio, and then Swords with Gemini energy. And it made me think of Leo too because of the red, but red is Cups in this deck. So those were my cards. And with the Swords, it's kind of like um, not letting things defeat you, because the Knight of Swords has a little bit of a relentless energy, and it can be um, sometimes unpredictable and a little bit on the not safe side, but it keeps going. So with this reading, since I was talking about my reading, um, there was advice that I got in class. Well, the whole class got the advice, and I thought it was um, pretty solid advice because we were doing some math equations and and we have to calculate certain things in pharmacy, and math has never been my favorite subject, but one thing that one of the professors said, because there's another one that is an overseer, and then I think she'll be teaching us for the next couple weeks. She'll well, her advice was like, stop inventing math because um some sometimes like we were overthinking about how to get to the answer, and she's like, sometimes math can be simple and straightforward because you may look at an equation and you're like, that was eerily too easy to get this answer. Let me just add a couple of steps to what I just did. And that's what she was talking about, to sometimes like leave the answer as is. I mean, sometimes you'll have to see what you did to to get it if you weren't getting like the correct answer, but um it was eye-opening to me too. And I feel like you can apply that to other things in life. And if we think about like the things that we might make more difficult, say relationships, and I can't speak for all relationships because it's different every time, but um, sometimes when you have experienced certain types of trauma from relationships, it it's good to be aware of them and to notice what you do in those situations too. Like if somebody tries to change you, and at the end of the day, like, or even at that moment, it's important to ask, like, I love, do I love doing this? And if I'm considering stopping what I love to do, like, why am I considering doing that? And if this is like part of who I am, then why is it something that I should change? And again, we grow, um, and we're always growing, and we grow too when we're in relationships. Um, I would say especially my last relationship years ago. Oh my God, sorry, my voice. That was like one of the main things because he was like, I thought you would change. And I'm like, this conversation would have been a lot shorter. And this whole thing, I mean, um, I had opportunities in that state that I was in at the time, and I had other things going on. Like I met my friend that called me yesterday, but it's it's just like, do you recognize yourself in the mirror after all that? And it really is true when people are like, I don't recognize myself, because you morphed yourself into something that you thought would help them be happier. And then in return, it's like not you. Not like I did that, but I don't think it. But, and also towards the end of it, I was happy that I left with some dignity, because after like the whole situation, and even like I had a being like come to me twice, like towards the very end, and like almost like screaming like to leave him. And I felt like people were like talking, and like I would barely mention anything about him. And then it was like almost like something talking through them and being like, you need to leave him. And I'm like, okay. And then, I found out, when I found out, it wasn't me like particularly looking, but it kind of just like revealed itself. And then I'm like, okay, so this is like the situation. And because I guess towards the end, it was a little bit of that, because I was like, I know he liked other types of conversation that were more mature, and like in a way where it talks about politics or history. And not like I can't talk about those things, but it's not something that's necessarily something that those things aren't things that I talk about super often. And then, um, because I felt like, um, I was thinking about trying to find ways that I could incorporate that into my daily life, where I'm like, maybe I could learn about these things, and it's good to learn about them in general, but maybe I could try to make it as part of our conversations. And I know he didn't even like making when I made my YouTube videos either, because he's like, they're so random. Like, who watches these things? And I was thinking, well, I like making them, and if people like watching them, then they're chill. So I'll continue, because it makes me happy. And then, as I was saying, like leaving with some type of dignity, because that was kind of like, after I found out what was really going on, I'm like, really a little bit of mind blown, because I wasn't expecting it, but it cemented it to where I knew that there wasn't going back from what I found out. And it wasn't even being like tear shedding. If I were to cry after that, it would be because um like you just go through life and you try to figure out how to do other things and move forward, and see the person that you have evolved into, and adapting to those things too, or seeing what can bring me back to some type of to source where I feel the most at home with myself. So that was kind of like those takeaways from it. But again, you don't want to wake up and you're like, I don't know who this is anymore because this girl, she doesn't necessarily dislike sports, but she's not into sports either, and she has like a whole wardrobe of random sports teams that the guy likes, um, unless you just wear them to when you go together to watch the game or something. But or you're modifying your diet because of the way that that other person eats or the way that the person wants you to eat. Like it's just sometimes sad when towards the end of it you might try to mend things even if the situation gets out of hand or too traumatic, or like it could be abusive. It um so at this reading, since I went on my rant, it does feel like heavy energy because you have the Ten of Wands with the Judgment card, Major Arcana, and it kind of feels like a life that you built for yourself. And with the Ten of Wands, it doesn't feel like a life that you just throw away. But it's, I feel like the Judgment is kind of like one of the biggest battles or like revolutionary things that happen, maybe from a worldly perspective or maybe in your personal life. And there's just so much of like the mechanics that go into it. And it really does ask you, how do you move forward from here? I feel like it could be maybe figuratively or literally where you try to separate like feeling like you're in a war zone or being at home or at ease. Hopefully that's like a type of thing that you may associate with home or what you would want to associate with your home. Um, because the Judgment is kind of like the final call too, in a way. It's the last type of major things that really bring it into like the worldly perspective because you get the world after Judgment. Yeah, the obstacle, which I feel isn't the biggest thing, it's minor arcana. It's the Four of Cups. This is an adjustment. I feel like it veers you into a different direction, and I feel that maybe life, it's so drastic and it really forces you to almost put down what you're doing and to do something that you never thought that you would try to do, and sometimes even think that you were like capable of, like maybe it's not in your nature to do those things, and you went through with it. The Sorry, me constantly going in and out of thoughts. Like with this Four of Cups, it doesn't seem like it's the worst idea for the outcome, but it's definitely something that changes the swing of things. I was going to say change the game because I feel like that's closer to what the normal saying is, but I don't really want to say like it's a game. To some people, it might be, but it's also knowing how to play the game, even if it's not the game that you're completely in or necessarily want to be associated with. You have another hanged man. Oh, well, I have another hanged man because if I'm talking about myself, this is the Ukrainian reading, and it how to overcome the obstacle. And with that, I'm also getting the word illusion, and so Major Arcana hanged man with the magician hanged man, and it seems like the magician really goes with the Four of Cups because that seems like it could be like divinely guided in a way because I've mentioned this with the traditional Rider-Waite-Smith imagery of the Four of Cups. It's like you have a couple of cups and then some, like the person's folded like this, being like not willing to take those cups, but there's also this random chalice. It looks different from the other cups and it's coming from like midair and there's like a hand that reaches out that gives it to you. That's kind of like that Four of Cups where you're where I'm linking it to the Magician card because that's like of the divine guidance. And I feel like there could have been like times or like situations that may have gotten out of hand, and this could be a way of like grounding or like solidifying. It's well, you're talking about the divine, but it's also where it's trying to maybe do its own type of intervention where it does that guidance. And I feel like there's that energy going on. And in the past is Temperance also like one of those angelic cards in the Major Arcana. There are of a lot of Major Arcana in this reading. So Temperance, I feel like it would go well with the Judgment card because and the Ten of Wands, since it's something where you value the type of peace that you have and the life that you built for yourself or the life that you want to build for yourself, because it's like you're not letting go of those Ten of Wands, but it also feels like there's more of a journey to like bring these Ten of Wands to another destination. The Temperance card, I feel like it could be a reminder of how things like could be, because there were times where things felt like a little easier, where things felt a little normalized. It's funny because I was watching this, it's like a cartoon, and it's like a bunch of frogs, and uh, a girl gets trapped in the frog world, and um, there's like Pop Pop, and he's like the grandpa frog, and he's like, when the old ways were just the ways. And I feel like things come back and things like come like almost cycle in and out, and sometimes it's your time, sometimes it's a great moment in life. Other times it's like, man, this part of it is something else where it feels a lot more difficult than what it should be. The future is the Eight of Wand. I'm sorry, the Eight of Cups. I feel like the cups and the wands might be together in this reading, which I feel like is like opposites. And that kind of reminds me of like dealing with opposites in life, not only in maybe the encounters that you have with people, but or like with the person that you talk to. It is one where it's against the grain that what you would normally want to have. Like if things are becoming a new, like going in a new direction, and you just remember the old ways being the way. The Eight of Cups, I feel like it does link to the Ten of Wands too, because it's not like you give up hope. It's not like you give up the things that you love to have or do. But if there's a way of bringing it into the present. Um, and then with the opposites, like it kind of reminds me of schooling, like my degree, and I'm taking another course that's kind of linked to what I've been doing for the past couple of years. And um, I've said this in earlier videos that I wanted to be a storyteller or like a writer. And that was so dreamlike. It was like romanticizing that type of lifestyle. Um, but that wasn't what happened, and I ended up going into subjects and a degree that is almost against the grain for me because science and math are definitely not the subjects that I would normally gravitate towards at all. So I feel like it really challenges you, but it's something that can be fulfilling, and especially when it builds character, it builds yourself. When you do things that maybe you don't want to do that are particularly against the grain for you and difficult in that way. Um, because there's a fight that goes on, I feel like within me, and I feel like for a lot of people, if you've you've done that. And when I was talking about romanticizing, it is good to be in love with yourself. And I don't know how conceited that sounds, but especially when I feel like I understand, like in general, a lot of people maybe they want to be in relationships, and then um, I'm a Libra, and then I feel like there's that energy of being in love with the idea of being in love. And so, um, again, keeping the dignity that you have and not trying to convince or like push the other person to want to continue doing it. And sometimes it could be like playing those games where they give you a little bit here and then they just completely ignore you the next moment. Um, but it it's almost that determination that gets to a point where like you really want to ask yourself, is this something that's okay to keep going with in terms of how much is it really um hurting me? And it even for after the aftermath of stuff, I feel that it's important for like the healing process if you try to again find and center yourself, like who you are, and to make sure that you recognize yourself and that you're happy or that you're proud to um, be by your own side and be your own motivator and be super happy when you do the things that you love to do or to be comfortable with being yourself and being comfortable being around your being alone and doing those things. So the final cards, yeah, the Ace of Swords. That was one of my cards. And then the Justice is here, Major Arcana. I do feel like with the Justice card, it does give off the balance of, I don't want to say like generic meaning for the Justice card, but it is associated with Libra, and then Libra has the scales. When you um, give as much as you're given in a way where, like, if someone, if you need help and then somebody genuinely wants to help you, and then in return, like if you don't have other things to give, then maybe to give your time and like give all like the effort that you can into accomplishing this goal with this other person that's trying to help you. And I feel like it might give, or it could give like reverence to that situation. I feel with like justice, it can be linking with judgment too on how far we've gone and the things that we hold sacred and what we want to keep in our lives with the 10 of wands going into the 8 of cups. You have another air sign with the Knight of Swords. The Knight of Swords was in the beginning too with my reading, and then this one, it feels like taking challenges head on. You could call it fearlessness, you can call it recklessness with the energy, but it just feels like something that needs to be done, and it's not going to give up on that opportunity. This could even be, again, if you're helping somebody to make sure that their dreams are ones that can be reality. And you have the Two of Wands there too, so that could be that interaction or companionship that you get. I mean, it's the wands, but you see two figures here, and the wands are almost like, I don't know if it's like this with other countries. I feel like maybe it could be like something that can hold you up, especially when you break your fractions or fracture something. And it's almost like leaning on each other and not bringing each other down, but trying to bring substance and um, meaningful things. It can even be like meaningful lessons or develop into something with the Two of Wands. So that was the reading. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you in another video.